Welcome to another episode of Point of Jew. I am your host. I am the J. Hirsch, Jeremy Hirsch, and exciting show, honestly, planned for today. Going to talk to another podcast host, the host of Lift Through It, which is as you may have guessed, a fitness and exercise podcast hosted by a friend of mine, Matt Bolea, and we'll get into that. Sort of creative endeavors and passions have always been big with Matt. Very, very creative guy, really good storyteller. So excited for you guys to, hear Matt, hear about his podcast and everything kind of going on with him. And so before we get into that, we have What's Brewing, what's going on this week. From the last episode, you guys know that I have started the giveaway for either a $25 Hulu, Netflix, or Amazon gift card. We're tying that into YouTube subscriptions. So subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave a comment. That way I can pop you into the Excel spreadsheet I make that I then pop into a spinny wheel, which randomly selects a winner. If you're already subscribed, you can leave a comment on any video. I will still count that because if you've been subjected to this podcast for a lengthy period of time, God knows you deserve something. Going past that, nothing else honestly really new. It's been kind of slow. I don't know about for you guys. One thing that just want to talk about real quick, because I know I talk about stuff I watch or what I'm into or different things I hear going on in entertainment. The shirt I'm wearing this week, super easy, barely an inconvenience. Not a random phrase, but there's a comedian, Ryan George, who I think the guy is tremendously creative and entertaining. I recommend, at some point after you listen to this, not during, don't stop. Just put pitch meeting into your search bar on YouTube. Ryan George is, I think, tremendously funny. The pitch meetings, I'm going to probably butcher this completely because I suck at explaining other people's stuff, sometimes my own. But basically, he plays two roles in a given pitch meeting. He is a movie studio executive and then also a writer pitching a movie. Many things that you love and hold dear to, from your Harry Potters to your Marvel movies, and or Home Alone even, so some of the classics. And he explains the absurdities in the plots and things that maybe you didn't think of or maybe things you look past. And there's kind of a fun back and forth between the writer and the movie executive, jam-packed with just the best catchphrases, such as super easy, barely an inconvenience. So just something I wanted to throw out there. If I can get Ryan George on the podcast, I most certainly would love to do that because, again, deeply entertaining individual. Aside from that, just been focusing on the MLB offseason, seeing all the good stuff going on there. It was a pleasure again having Alex on the show last week because I got to talk baseball a little bit. Only negative part about that is because I don't release the episodes in the same days I record them, some people and stuff, moved or people got signed and that doesn't negate the episode, but, some things we talk about or speculate then happen already before the episode airs. So makes that slightly difficult. And circling back for a second on the contest, I released the video mocking the Jewish space laser and just to, if I can be serious for a moment-ish, kind of, what that's in reference to or what that even means is there is a QAnon representative from Georgia who, I'm trying to condense a really long story, but was talking about basically that the Jews have some kind of space laser perhaps tied to California wildfires and things like that. And I wish we had cool technology. A friend of mine pointed out, and I think I later saw other Twitter users pointing out, Death Star of David was right there. Could have taken that name. That would have been tremendous. But it's like frustrating a lot, to have, there's always wild conspiracies. We control all of entertainment. We control all of the banks. Now we have really cool space lasers. So all I can say is if any of this were true, why am I not being cut in on this? If we control entertainment, I could do a lot better than 40 views on a YouTube channel, am I right? If I have a giant space laser, cool live shows, better background than my bare bones living room. Why am I not being included on this? If that was kind of like Jerry Seinfeld tonally there, right? But no, in all seriousness, it's sad that there's always like just. I mean, it happens for a lot of minorities. Obviously, we all go through different stereotypes and comments being made, but it gets a little dejecting. So yeah, I mock and have fun with things, and I feel like that's all I can do. I mean, there's not much else there, but it gets kind of just monotonous and it gets exhausting, always having to put up with stuff. So I deal with it with humor. I deflect the best I can, and I just keep marching on there. So I'm off my soapbox for a minute. But again, super excited for this episode today. Really happy to talk to Matt. I haven't really had an in-depth conversation with him in a long time. I worked with Matt many years ago. So really excited to hear about his podcast, hear about how he got into fitness. Because when I was talking with Matt and when I knew him really well, he was a musician and he had some great songs too. So that was definitely an endeavor I thought he could follow through more with as well. So without any further ado, on Point of Jew, let's get to it. Lift Through It podcast host, Matt Bolea. All right, everybody, welcome to this week's Point of Jew. My guest today, Lift Through It podcast host, Matt Bolea. Matt, thank you so much for reaching out and coming on, man.
Yeah, man, thank you for having me.
So Matt, I've always known you as a tremendously creative person. When I knew you, you were heavily involved in music. And now, you're deeply involved in this fitness podcast. Before we started recording, talked about, I listened to a few of your episodes. You have mixed good advice with really good stories and personal stories. How did you fall into fitness? How did this become like a major love for you?
So the outlet really came after falling out of music. And that just happened just with life, growing up and just having more responsibilities. And the band I was in didn't work out. I tried to do something by myself and it was just so much time to invest into it. I wanted to apply the time somewhere differently, I guess. And, to be honest, man, like I went through some shit and I was trying to find ways to kind of like get my head together, get my head straight. And I took the route of fitness and I realized, I completely overlooked how important it was to just really get myself together physically and how much of an impact that was going to have on me mentally as well. And the better I start feeling about myself working out, the more dedicated I got into it. And from there, I just kind of fell in love with it. And I was like, just so passionate, like pretty much all the time I could take if I was watching Netflix or listening to music in my car. Instead, I was watching YouTube videos on fitness, trying to learn about it myself, trying to educate myself without a legitimate education. And a lot of my friends started asking for advice because I guess they saw that I was getting results and learning more about it. And the more I talked to people about it, the more I realized how much, not to their fault, but they just didn't know that I'd kind of found as common sense at this point. And that's what kind of led me to want to do this whole podcast to help people understand, like, this is not that fucking difficult. Is the F-bombs going to be all right dropping on here?
YouTube hasn't flagged me or anything yet, so you wouldn't be the first. You probably won't be the last. I think we're cool. This is a safe space.
Perfect, cool. I just want to make sure, but I just want to let people know, it's not that difficult to get involved and get your shit together if you're really wanting to take that route. And I just think people just make it way too hard on themselves.
When you say that people make it way too hard on themselves, and I probably will put myself in that category. I'm sure I've made it hard on myself. Personal plug, I've lost 20 pounds since the start.
Hell yeah. Let's fucking go.
Listen, you'd be amazed. I found that you'd be amazed when you stop eating pounds and pounds of crap, how easy it is to, even if you work out minimally, to lose some of that.
It's weird, yeah.
I will still demolish a sleeve of Reese's when applicable. But still, when you say that people make it hard on themselves, like, what are the things that you see that you've encountered that people do, or whether they're psyching themselves about X, Y, or Z, or they tell themselves they can't do it because of something? Like, when you say they make it too hard on themselves, like, what areas do you see that are most commonplace?
So it comes from like both sides of the spectrum. So let's look at somebody that is super dedicated into fitness, but they're either not getting the results they want, or they just don't feel like they can stay stuck on a diet that long to stick with it long term. It's like looking at what those people choose to do is they're trying to get in the gym, 5 to 6 days out of the week. They're stressing out if they miss for trying to break this down so I don't get over myself here. There's programming that's involved with like going to the gym. Yeah. So like a program, a lot of people do like a bro split. So like Monday's chest, Tuesday's arms, Wednesday's back, whatever. And you have people that are so fucking paranoid that if they miss that one day, it's going to throw off their whole entire progress. They're going to lose all the progress they've made. And they just overthink it. And then plus with their diet they're eating, they feel like they have to eat 12 eggs in the morning. They have to eat plain ass chicken breast for lunch and dinner with nothing but rice with it. And it's just, there's so many other options that people have now that they just tend to overlook. And, oh man, my battery's low. That's not good. I did not think about that. We should be good. But there's just so many options that people overlook, I feel like. And especially when it comes to like breakfast, like all that matters is calories. If you're trying to get on a good diet, if you're trying to eat right, just learn about the foods you're eating. Don't feel like that if you want to put on muscle, you need to eat 10 to 12 eggs in the morning. You fucking don't. That's stupid. I don't understand why people that aren't actually competing for anything feel like they have to live a life that miserable, and like the plain chicken, like there's hot sauce and sugar-free barbecue sauce. It's 0 calorie. Why don't you like enjoy what you're doing? So it's just people making the whole path harder. But then you also have people that don't know where to start, and they feel like they need to crash diet to get the ball rolling, and they feel like they need to stop eating all the unhealthy food and all the shitty food. But really, most of the unhealthy food you're eating, you can make, like you can optimize and make it work for you. So I mean, if you're eating like pizza with a soda and dipping it in fucking cheese sauce, I don't know ranch, for instance, that if that's what you like, yeah, start small, like keep eating what you want instead of eating like this whole fucking regular ranch sauce with it. Do fat free, you have less calories. Instead of drinking a regular soda, drink a sugar-free soda, you have less calories. And that kind of stuff already takes off like 100, 200 calories off of that one meal. And that's just where people need to start. Like, and I feel like that everyone just wants to crash diet and take all the unhealthy foods out their diet. They lose weight for, a month or so doing that, but then they're miserable and they just gain it all back again. And it's like, just take it slow.
When you, for yourself, what kind of diet or what do you eat, or what are some things that you would recommend? I know kind of easing yourself and taking in with what people like, but are there certain foods that you recommend that, people could kind of maybe gravitate towards if they're looking to have something that's good, but not devoid of all flavor?
I mean, really, I'm not that picky with it. My biggest thing is just, I think rather you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to gain weight, just eat enough protein. And if you're hitting your protein goals, which if you don't know what your goal should be, whatever you weigh your body weight, just try to eat around that per gram of protein. And it's that simple. And if you're getting that much protein in, then most of the carbs and the fats you get around it are going to balance themselves out. So even if you are eating some shitty food throughout the day, you're getting protein in your body that's going to, be good for your muscle. It's going to satiate you. So it's going to keep you from wanting to eat in bulk more, because protein is just more filling at the end of the day. So I'm not really picky with what I eat anymore. I mean, I'll have a couple eggs in the morning. I'll make like a chicken wrap for lunch that I bring when I'm traveling. Like I said, I put like sauce on it, put cheese in it. I just do whatever with it. But I find like ways to substitute everything. So, if I'm going to use barbecue sauce, I just use a sugar-free option. If I'm going to get really picky, I can find like a fat-free or less fat option of cheese. And I'm not trying to cut anything out of my diet. I'm trying to find ways to replace it so I can still eat what I enjoy.
I think that's good advice. For using myself as an example, I've been trying to, lower caloric intake, but I've also been trying to watch like sodium and watch cholesterol. And there are different options where things that, I've found for me personally that I could substitute. Like for instance, I've been using coconut aminos instead of using like soy sauces that are like super, super, super heavy in like sodium, for example. So I know we're talking about slightly different things, but I just mean it from the purpose of, finding things to substitute so you could still get flavors and stuff that you enjoy, but that might be like slightly healthier for you. Or, I don't fry as much food as I used to because that's not exactly the greatest thing for me. But like to get a lot of flavor it's not the same texture or anything by any amount, but like I use a crock pot a lot to cook because it really like soaks in flavor. So when I want something that has a lot of flavor to it, it's tremendous. I cook a lot with like buffalo sauces and stuff, and have found like options to have like low sodium or low cholesterol stuff. And just to your point, like if you actually like look and even like take 5 seconds to see like labels and stuff like with what's in it, or like I'm not ashamed to admit, like in the grocery store, like I'll look to see, all right, this sauce A has 350 calories, this sauce B has 180. I'm going to go for the one that has less calories and also looks to have less crap in it. I mean, it is to your point, there are those options.
Yeah, and I think that it just comes down to people just not wanting to learn about it, and it's just, I know when I first started getting into this, I think a lot of it has to do with people's ego too, honestly. I mean, when my first couple grocery hauls, when I was trying to eat healthy, I was feeling so weird standing in front of every aisle reading the nutritional label, because who fucking does that, right? Like, it's just, me too. I mean, guilty, right? Yeah. But it's like when you're starting it, like, you can feel when someone's like kind of like walking by, looking at you like, what are you fucking doing, man? Get out of my way. Like, you want to grab something, you're just sitting there reading it. But it's just like, I think a lot of it is just like this mentality where you don't want people to like look at you and think something weird of you because you're standing there reading those facts. But you need to do that to learn about the food if you're going to be trying to do this right. And especially to like my biggest point, if you want to substitute where you're eating so you can still eat the meals you enjoy, you need to learn about those foods. And it's not hard. You just need to do it, but people don't want to take the time to learn about it. They'd rather just, cut it all out and make themselves miserable. And I'm just like, making it harder for yourself.
No, I think eating right and picking what you choose is one of the biggest hurdles. I mean, getting into the gym obviously, supplements that, and obviously is a big part of staying healthy and accompanies your weight loss. But if you're not eating right, you're essentially not getting in the game the right way, I don't think.
Yeah, it all depends on what you want to do too. I mean, like in my case, I'll tell you like where I started, because I know when we worked together, I was a skinny fucking kid, like super skinny. I've always been skinny. So like when I started doing this, I was 138 pounds, and I always weighed around 138 to like mid 140s, and 5'10 is my height. So that's pretty small for someone my height. And now I've gotten up to 183.
Oh, wow.
And in about under 2 years. And that's why I think that, I post like my stuff on Instagram, what I'm doing, and like people reaching out, like asking like, dude, you changing a lot, what's the deal? And yeah, it just comes down to like, how to your point, how you're eating, but also what your goals are. So like for me, trying to put on weight, it's like I'm trying to get bigger, but I don't want to get fatter.
Right.
But it also has a lot to do with what I'm doing in the gym. So let's say that if I do just want to have like a ridiculous cheat meal, I just want to eat something that I know is not going to do anything good for my body if I just sit down and don't do anything afterwards. I'll try to position that meal after like a really intense leg day, or after a really intense just whatever in the gym. So I've already like broken down the shit in my body. My muscles need to be repaired. I'm just fucking exhausted. I need the extra recovery. So like all that extra sugar, maybe all the extra carbs, it's going to go in my body, but it's going to be put to work because of what I've already put my body through. And I think the mistake that a lot of people make is when they're trying to like eat like snack food and like all these cheat meals, which there's nothing wrong with, but you can position it around your workout so you can actually like utilize that shitty food. But most people want to eat it like late at night and have those cravings, and they're laying in bed, and then you go to sleep and your body can't digest it because you're not even standing up straight, you're laying down. So it's like, that's where it's more so about like, how are you optimizing what you're putting in your body rather than what are you putting in your body?
So would you recommend it? And I'm guilty. I'm 100,000% guilty of the late night snacking, but after a pretty vigorous workout, so it's about also too positioning when you eat that. So if I feel like having some cheat snacks, maybe after I had like a hardcore workout, so at least something's being utilized.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know, like, I've talked to a couple of the guys, like, just through YouTube that I've been able to meet. Like, we're talking about the guy that gave me his mic. He's really big on YouTube, and I'll give him a shout out, Ryan Ankrum. If you look him up, he's got thousands of subscribers and hits on his videos. Super smart with the knowledge. He knows about all the stuff on the ins and outs of it. And I mean, he'll tell you straight up, like, he'll eat 4 Rice Krispie treats going to the gym, because that sugar, he knows, is going to be energy for what he's doing in the gym. But if you're just sitting down at night eating 4 Rice Krispie treats, and then you go, it's the timing of it. So, I mean, you don't always want to just like utilize shitty food for your workouts. That's not the point of it. But if you do want to get it in every once in a while, just be smart with where you're putting it in during the day.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. So for you, kind of taking it back a second, to your transformation from going to, a guy who's 5'10" and relatively lanky to, putting on essentially 50 pounds or so of mass. What were the challenges in doing that for you? And like, how did you kind of get into, programming your routine for yourself to achieve those goals?
The challenges were time management, probably the biggest one. Because when I started, I knew that I was going to be dedicated to it, because it's just, I had hit a point in my life where I was like, if I don't get my shit under control right now, if I can't make myself better, I'm fucked. Like, I need to do something with myself. And so it was like, there's no turning back. I had to do this. So, but in the process of it, it was like the time management aspect. I mean, it's a weird situation, and we can get into it and get deeper into it if you want. But at the time when I started, I was married but separated, and I also had a child that I wasn't living with. So I had moved out. I was doing my own thing by myself, and so I started kind of doing the research when I was on my own, trying to figure out where I can kickstart this from. And when I started, during that process, I was also trying to like get the family back together. So I'm trying to get myself together, trying to get the family together, trying to manage this full-time fucking job, and then learn about all this stuff too. So it was really just the mental side of it for me, I think, like trying to like balance all this shit out and keep reminding myself that I'm not doing this just because it's a hobby. I'm not doing this just because I just want to show off muscles and go to the beach on summer and look shredded. I don't give a fuck about that. Like, I'm doing this because it's what's best for myself. And if I can get my head on right, then I can get my family together, and I can be better at my job, and I can just be a better motherfucker at the end of the day. And so it was just, staying with that mentality and staying on that drive. Before I knew it, that what I was talking about when we first started, I just started feeling better. And to this day, I mean, that's the biggest challenge. And now, I mean, like, the family's all together. We got our first house last year together. We got 2 babies now.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Yeah. So we just had our daughter. She's 18 months. Our son is 2.5. So now, I mean, it's even more challenging now, honestly, living with all of them. I'm like, oh my God. So it's just, I hear a lot of people just always say, I don't have the time, dude. I don't have the time. And, when you've had kids, and it's just when you've had kids and you hear anyone say they don't have the time for anything, you just want to fucking smack them. It's like, if you don't have kids and you're saying you don't have the time, I guarantee you all you have to do is wake up earlier. It's about what you want to do. I mean, there was, for a solid 6 months, man, I mean, the only time I could get in the gym was the morning. So I was waking up 4 a.m. every morning, coming down, getting into the gym by 5, coming back home, waking up the babies, taking care of babies, doing breakfast for all of them, helping my wife out so she can get all ready before I go to work, then coming to work and coming back. It's like, that's a lot of shit, but it's possible. That's the whole thing. It's totally possible to do it. It's what do you want to do? But to your point, like, what's the biggest challenge? It definitely is finding that time management, but just reminding yourself throughout every day, like, why you're doing it. And as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, you should be able to push through it. Give me 1 second, Jeremy. I got to plug my phone in here. I'm sorry, dude.
It's all right. We've had worse technical difficulties on the show before, so I think we'll be all right with that. And I really appreciate you kind of letting us in your personal life too. I mean, that's huge. That's not something that a lot of people, share and go into, but I think it helps people listening as well because Matt is a real person. Matt goes through shit. If Matt can do some stuff, you probably can too.
But yeah, dude, that's another big reason why I want to do the podcast because, again, to the point of I feel like a lot of people have an ego that are in fitness. I'm trying to like be a real human when it comes to like what I recommend, when it comes to my advice to people, when it comes to helping people out. Like we all start from the bottom, and I just feel like there's so many people out there that just forget where they started when they hit a certain point, and they don't want to admit the struggles they've gone through. They don't want to admit that it's hard some days. They don't want to admit the past that they've had that brought them to where they are today. And it's like, bro, you got to fucking accept that shit. Like, and not enough people are vocal about it. And I know for me, some of the biggest motivators in my life, some of the key takeaways I've had to push me through this shit to like, when I've had days where I didn't want to like get up and do this, it's when I've listened to people that have been 100% honest about their experience and they've been vulnerable, And so like when I've taken away that kind of advice from people who are vulnerable, who don't care if they're going to be judged for their past, because we all have a fucking past. That's another point to the podcast is I haven't really touched on it yet in my current episodes, but I'm going to get there to talk about, like mental health and how it relates to physical health and physical fitness and all that stuff. And just how, you can't look at what you've been through and forget about it. Like you gotta you can forgive, you can do whatever, but you just gotta accept it and let it build you into who you are today. And it's just a lot of people don't want to talk about all that shit. I mean, if it wasn't for me, like with the separation with the family and all that, we wouldn't be the fucking powerhouse of a husband and wife with kids that we are today. Like we had to go through that shit. So I appreciate the fuck out of that pain, And it's just like, if I can help people out with that story so they can A, hear some real fucking shit, and B, relate it with whatever they've gone through that they feel like they might be alone dealing with, that's a win-win. So I'm all about it.
That's awesome, man. I think that obviously has helped you, and that I think that point of view and what you want to do and incorporate into the podcast, I think will definitely help people. And kind of going from there too, I know you're adapting and changing the podcast, and I know you were just mentioning it a little bit there, but like ultimately, what's going to be your main goal with the podcast? What do you want people really to get out of it? Like why is somebody going to listen? And I know you said, cause you're not just some random dude on Instagram, just having a podcast to just talk out of his ass and flash pecs on Instagram. So, why should people listen to you on Lift Through It? What do you hope they get?
I mean, my biggest thing is I'm just going to be honest with people. I'm going to make it fun. I'm going to, whenever I'm talking about any certain topic on the show, one thing I always try to do is come back and be like, I'm guilty of being this fucking stupid too. Like, I'm not trying to like ever talk about a certain situation that someone needs to change, or they might be like the diet thing, for instance. If I'm doing an episode about how to correct your diet, I'm also going to talk about all the dumb decisions I've made in the past. So people understand that this isn't just this guy who thinks he knows fucking everything. This is a guy who's, accepting that he's fucked up too. And he's trying to like help us not go down that same road. So just to be real, honest, vulnerable, and make it fun at the same time. I try to take everything very lighthearted, and take shots at myself because I have nothing to be ashamed of. And funny enough, I was talking to this one person on one of these groups I'm on, and they were getting upset because they were posting videos that they kept on getting shitty comments on. People like, there's like fitness videos, like doing like a certain lift that isn't like super heavy or something, and people are talking shit about it, and then they're trying to defend themselves and everything. And actually the episode that just went up an hour ago is kind of about what I'm talking about right now.
Wow.
And my biggest thing was like, dude, like you just need to like accept that you can be better. And in doing that, you kind of need to like, if you're going to put yourself out there, like I'm putting myself out there with the podcast, you need to admit that you've already fucked up in these aspects before anyone can say you fucked up. Because as soon as you own it, that takes away from anyone's like fucking shitty criticism. Like what else can anyone do to come back and like give you shit if you're already giving yourself shit?
Yeah.
but you don't want to just like treat yourself like shit. You make it fun and you joke about it, but you got to be vulnerable like that, I feel like. And aside from that, like where the podcast is really going, dude, I don't know, but it's going somewhere. I don't know what the fuck happened this month, but I started it originally in June, and my buddy Ryan, the YouTube guy, you know, we clicked off a couple years ago because I found him on YouTube when I was looking up a lot of information, and he has a website where he does like personal training and can do like these little like phone calls if you have any questions. So I took him up on it, and I paid for this 30-minute call or $30 call for 30 minutes and everything. I was like, I just need someone to give me some advice. And we just hit it off immediately, man. Ever since then, we've just kept in touch. And his company is Final Boss. And like when I started the podcast, he was all about, you know, partnering up to kind of, I guess you can say like sponsor the podcast, but everything is kind of like just like word of mouth. We don't have anything on paper, obviously. But so he's really helped, you know, boost everything. And from June to October, it was doing okay for what it was, but I got so busy with the holidays and I just gave it so much less attention. When January came around, or when this month came around, I decided to try to just revamp everything, give it a new name, give it a new format, completely take away all the episodes I've done, try to do a better quality. And dude, I don't know what the fuck has happened, but I've gotten like reviews now on Apple Podcasts. I've gotten like comments on Apple Podcasts. I've gotten 4 partnerships with different companies that are looking at doing stuff with the show now.
Well, nice.
And that's all happened over this week too. So I'm still like kind of like,
You're still buzzing.
what? Like, so I mean, there's a lot that's I think is going to come out of this. So hopefully 2021 is a year that like the shit actually does something, you know. And even saying that, I mean, the fact that I know at least one person is listening to this show and it's making a positive change in their day-to-day life, that's enough for me. Like that's fucking awesome because I just enjoy doing it. But yeah, the fact that people actually want to get involved is crazy. I'm not trying to toot my fucking horn by any means.
This is the exact place for you to do that though.
So like this one company yesterday, they're sending me over $500 of like supplements and products for me to like experiment with and try out for the sake of the show to promote. And I'm just like, so these motherfuckers heard my show and said, I'm going to give this guy all of this just because, you know, I'm just like, what? Like, it's crazy, man. So, I mean, it's kind of daunting at the same time because I'm like, I feel like I have more of a responsibility when like someone or a company is literally like investing in my shit, it seems like at this point. So it's like, I need to make sure there is a return that's going to be, you know, worthwhile. But it's really cool at the same time, man. I'm stoked to see what's going to happen.
No, I wish you nothing but the best, man. It's definitely hard to grow a channel. I was doing both, you know, this video format and audio only, and just I've been doing this show, I would say for about 5 months, and I'm going more towards into just focusing on my YouTube channel because for me anyway, I was looking at the analytics for what I was doing on those audio only episodes on like Podbean and iTunes and Google Podcasts and stuff, and it makes sense after I like sat and thought about it. Obviously the video format makes the most sense because just kind of how the show flows and kind of goes. So it's definitely ups and downs with doing this stuff. But like you said earlier, we're both of the creative types and we enjoy doing this. And I think as long as you enjoy doing something, I think it really permeates and shows through. And just from the little bit I listened to last night of your podcast, I definitely could tell that you like doing it. The mic was really nice. What mic were you using?
It's just a little Blue Yeti. So a little USB one I plug
doing.
into my tablet. Simple enough, man. So yeah.
That's 100,000% same mic I got. So that's it does a really nice job. But I know you mentioned iTunes. Where can people catch Live Through It?
Yeah, so Apple Podcasts, you can go on there on iTunes. You can find it. It's on really any platform, any podcast platform. So Spotify, Google Podcast. If you listen on Apple Podcast, that's where I'm seeing the reviews starting to come in. So like keep that shit going. If you like it, give me 5 stars. It'd be great because it's awesome to see the feedback come in. But yeah, and also, I mean, if people listen to it and they kind of want to give it some like real criticism, fucking leave some real criticism too, because I do want to know like what takeaways people are having, whether it's good or bad. I want people to be honest about it. But I'm also going to be starting to do probably some YouTube work as well. The only reason why I haven't done the YouTube side of this is just because it is like more time consuming doing the video editing and all that kind of stuff. Like I use the Anchor app for the podcast. And I mean, even if I don't have the time to set up my equipment to do like a really good quality episode, I can still pick up my phone and just do this shit like we're doing right now in my fucking car in the middle of my work day. And then bam, just like upload that shit and be done with it. And it's just for the videos, it does take a lot more time to dedicate to do the editing, and then you got to find a way, you know, if you really want to get into it, create custom thumbnails and all that stuff, and it's just like it's a lot. But like I was saying, the way that it seems like the show might be going here, if it really starts to pick up, then I am definitely going to consider expanding onto YouTube and doing things like that.
Well, it's cool. You got a good game plan going on. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to. And, you know, hopefully you pick up a couple more listeners off this. I will put links in the description just so people can kind of click in and, you know, start listening and, you know, change their 2021 for the better, and hopefully add a little bit more fitness. Because like you said, not only is it good for you physically, and I find this too, it's good for you mentally. And really, I know a lot of people right now are bummed out over a lot of different things. The pandemic has kind of obviously been a huge part of people's lives this year, and people are maybe stuck home a little bit more than they normally would be. You know, why not take a few minutes out of your day, get some exercise in, and feel better about yourself?
Yeah, man. I mean, people have all the control, dude. And that's what kind of frustrates me too. Like last year, I mean, yeah, like when this pandemic thing hit, it's brutal. It's been tough on everyone, but it just depends on what you're focusing on, dude. I mean, I had, even in the middle of all this stuff, you know, getting our first house, you know, getting together with the babies, trying to do this podcast thing with all this stuff. On top of that, with like work, I mean, I was able to have the high, again, not trying to toot the horn, just trying to make an example of what people can fucking do, you know? Like I had the highest national sales lift in my company in the peak of this pandemic. And it's just because I was fucking hustling, dude. And that's not saying that I'm doing anything special, because I'm not special whatsoever. It's just people can fucking do, like, people can work hard enough to get great results in whatever aspect of their life they're in if they just fucking do it. Like there's no excuse. And I feel like when this pandemic thing happened, it's just people had all these excuses now to just sit around and be mopey and then eat like shit. There was the quarantine 15 that was trending, that was showing just like people just gaining 15 pounds because they're in quarantine. What the fuck? Like, when I went into quarantine, I went on a keto diet. I got some dumbbell plates from Walmart. I just did what I could without the gym and ended up getting fucking shredded, which I'm not gonna stick with because I don't want to be that small, but I just want to try something different to keep my body going. And it's just people make the decisions and choose the path they want to take. And if the decision's going to be do the quarantine 15 and sit on your ass and gain 15 pounds and complain about what's happening in the world, then don't be surprised when you feel like shit every day and things aren't going the way you want. But I mean, if you really want to work at having a better lifestyle, you need to pick which option you want to go with. It comes to the time management thing again. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to sit around and stay up all night watching Netflix and playing video games? Or are you willing to sacrifice that, get extra sleep, and wake up early and take care of yourself and see how you might feel, see what the difference is. So it's just a personal decision.
Well, it's all about that. And I think you're 100% right. I mean, I'm lucky enough, I popped a little home gym in, and that's nothing crazy. My parents moved to Florida, and when they moved, they left a treadmill, and I took that from them so I can run when it's like cold like this it is now. And I just got some Bowflex weights so I could just adjust and just do a little bit of this and that just around the home. And I know that's an extreme example. Not everybody necessarily can throw a treadmill in their house but like you said, even run out to Walmart and get some dumbbell plates or just a couple little dumbbells and do just repetition with even low weights is good for you.
You can find ways to do it. And to that point though, I do want to clarify that I'm not saying that everybody should fucking be doing that. If you want to watch Netflix all night and you want to fucking play video, if that's what you like, by all fucking means, do it. Like, do that. If that's your thing, fucking do it. Fuck working out. Fuck the thing. It's about what you want to do. My biggest thing is I cannot stand hearing people say that they want to do X, Y, and Z, but they're over here doing A, B, and C. It's like, if you say it and you just start saying it for like a week or so and you're trying to get out of the habit, I get it. But man, if you've been saying it for like fucking months and years on end and you're still just making the complete opposite decision, like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, you got to pick and choose. But hey, if you're about the gaming shit or the Netflix all night, fucking do it. As long as you're happy, you're happy. That's all that matters.
I think that's good advice. On that note, Matt, I appreciate you kind of running down about your podcast, about your personal journey. Is there anything we didn't touch on that, you know, you want people to know, or any last words for yourself?
Not really, man. I mean, I just, you know, if you're curious about getting your shit together and just figuring out ways you can kind of enjoy life a little bit more with more clarity and more of a clear head and feel better about yourself and your body and all that shit, check out the podcast, because I'm just trying to give real life advice that isn't overwhelming for people, that simplifies all this health stuff, that hopefully will make people feel more comfortable being vulnerable to go into the gym if they've never done it before, because we all start from somewhere. And I was talking, you know what? I'm gonna call him out by fucking name because I still fuck with him and I don't give a fuck. Michael Harold. You know Michael Harold. Fucking Michael Harold, if you're listening, bro. Yeah. No one should be afraid to go into the gym. You know, and I feel I'm just picking on Mike because I just love fucking picking on him. He's my fucking boy, dude. But there's so many people that are afraid to like start going into the gym because they just feel insecure. They see these big fucking bulky dudes lifting crazy weights, and it is, you know, intimidating at first. But what I've come to learn, dude, is those like scary looking individuals are some of the biggest teddy bears I've ever met in my life. They are so nice, and as long as you are willing to ask for help, you know, or just be vulnerable. I keep using the word vulnerable. I think it's so important. Like, if you're able to show them that you're not fucking in your own head and you think you know what you're doing, they are so happy to fucking help you out. But it's people that go in the gym that haven't been in the gym that want to act like they know what they're doing and then are like 2 seconds away from snapping their leg. You know, those are the people no one has any fucking pity for. But if you go in there with the right intentions and you ask anyone for help, dude, most people are so willing to walk you through anything you need help with. And it's just, you know, you be vulnerable, you let your ego be at the door, and you realize like, damn, this place is actually pretty dope. I feel pretty good about myself. I'm gonna keep on doing it. So that's the message I'm trying to drive home. You know, don't be afraid to like get your shit started with this. People want to help other people out, and that's why I'm doing this too.
Wow, that's beautiful advice. I love what you're doing. I recommend everybody listen to it, live through it. Matt Bolea. Matt, thank you so much for coming on my podcast, giving me a little bit of your time, sharing your stories. I can't thank you enough, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right, everybody. That was this week's Point of Jew. See everybody next time. And Matt, live through it. Descriptions will be below. Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate you.